We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Wednesday edition of Free Association Radio. This is Robert Phoenix broadcasting to you live from the heart of Texas, deep in the heart of Texas, where it has cooled off recently, not as hot as it's been. Got a little bit of a cross breeze, and I think right now we're somewhere up around the mid-80s to high 80s, and trust me, after being in the low 100s last week, it feels like we're living on the Southern California coast right now in its most cool breeziness and the marine layer and the effect that it brings along. However, we're here in Texas, and it's all relative. Welcome. It is the 10th of July, 2013 is flying by us at light speed. We're halfway through the year already. Imagine that. More than halfway, actually. And within a few months, summer, actually a few weeks, summer will be over. I mean, let's file that away. Roughly about 8 weeks from now, we'll be staring down the end of summer. And then there will only be 3 months left in the year. And in 2013, we'll be in the record books. But we have a lot of ground to cover, both today and with the rest of the year itself. There's a lot happening astrologically. We have Saturn. It's going direct. In fact, it's gone direct. We also have the Grand Trine in effect. And these are really important aspects that we're going to look at today and get into today. Saturn in Scorpio is having an interesting impact on the Pluto and Scorpio generation. We see this primarily in the world of sports or entertainment because these are the examples of Pluto and Scorpio that we get put in front of us, but also across the world stage, Pluto and Scorpio, aka the millennials, are having a profound impact on cultures, government, and history as we can view it from this perspective. And it's quite up close and perhaps difficult to see in some ways. We have to go back to another time, to go back to the 1960s. It's when we saw a generation have as much of a profound impact on the culture at large and the collective theater that we call reality. And of course, that generation was the baby boomers. And it was the baby boomers that brought the whole concept and idea of mass protest into our awareness. And a lot of you who listen to this show were there during that time in some capacity, form, or function. Maybe you were there. Maybe you were on the front lines. Maybe you were protesting. Maybe you were burning down the ROTC building on campus and wanting the scalp of the the chancellor of whatever school you went to, or maybe you weren't there in that way, and that you were just wanting to experience peace, love, and happiness for everyone in some form of large gathering somewhere, perhaps festival. It's the time of festivals as well. So we're looking at a generation now that is having a very similar impact. Now, the difference between what happened then and what's happening now is obviously the media, and how the media both perceives the experience and drives the experience and shares the experience as well, because the media is, at least back in the 1960s, was a very different breed altogether. There were 3 major networks, and then you had a few, kind of minor networks on the side. Maybe you had an independent channel or 2 in the area that you were living in. Where I lived in, well, we had a few. We had Channel 2 KTVU, based out of Oakland, which was an independent channel, and then we had a few UHF channels. So it was easy in some ways to kind of streamline and direct the information, but at the same time, you control the information, but at the same time, there were different standards then. Journalism was in some ways a lot more respected. I mean, we were just coming out of a time where people like Edgar R. Murrow and certainly Walter Cronkite, and if you go back a little bit further in print media, people like H.L. Mencken. I mean, this was a time where theoretically journalism had a type of standard that people could adhere to. It was journalism was called, or the media and journalism was called the fifth column, or the fifth force, and as a result of their ability to be socially critical, they actually had a say in how policy and or events would unfold or be covered. But that's changed, and what's really interesting about the change is that we have all these media outlets. I mean, it's crazy how many media outlets we have, but if you go back into the 1960s, there were perhaps a lot more, there were a lot more independent media outlets, everything from newspapers on a local level, on a regional level, news services. Somebody just left. It's funny, if I'm not doing readings for people, they just leave. Sometimes I wish I wouldn't even see that. Bugs me. Anyway. So now, we had a lot more independent outlets, even though we had 3 main television outlets in terms of the networks. So what we saw during the 60s was, in some ways, in a lot of ways the 60s were very controlled, but in other ways, because we had all these diverse outlets on local levels, the types of messages or the types of news that could get through was a lot greater than it is today, to a large extent. Now we have all these networks, but they all have the same talking points, because I think there's about 6 major media corporations that own basically everything now. So when we see an event like what happened in Egypt or what happened in Turkey, there's generally a party line kind of reportage that goes along with it. And so I think right now it's much harder for us to understand the impact of this generation, because number one, it's so we're in it, we're seeing it. But on the other hand, the type of portrayal of what they're doing is very closely controlled and mediated. So I think history will look back during this time and we'll see it from a very different perspective, and we'll actually note it as being much more profound and intense than we're actually kind of experiencing it right here and now. So there's some news coming out that again, the Obama administration was behind what happened in Egypt, that they wanted Morsi out, that they wanted to have a different kind of presence in Egypt. And what's troubling here, and again, we're in this place. It's nothing but chutes and ladders right now. It's like there's the floor keeps falling out from underneath everything. But the key events or the key theater in the Middle East is Syria, and the rebels, the quote-unquote rebels, are losing. They're losing. And the one government that could have been the replacement government, if they could somehow topple Assad, was going to be the Muslim Brotherhood, who have been run out of Egypt now. So this is problematic on many, many fronts for the forces of the New World Order. So perhaps they were realizing Syria, unwinnable war, Muslim Brotherhood, not going to serve us long term. Let's shake it up all over again and let's try something different. That's very possible. It's very, very possible that was what happened and could likely occur. But the other thing that I think we're looking at too is, and this is where it gets a little tricky. This is where the slippery slope starts to get slipperier. There is a very strong possibility that we are living and being introduced into a time of perpetual chaos and perpetual revolution. We had war without end. War without end. This was the Bush Doctrine. This is what happened with the Bush Doctrine. We were going to be invested in a war on terror that was never going to be resolved until they told us that it was going to be resolved. And now what happens is that, well, that war is perhaps reaching, in some ways, its own zenith or its own culmination, but is being replaced, instead of a war without end, a planet in constant turmoil, chaos, and revolution. Perhaps this is what we're looking at, and this might be the new unspoken doctrine, because if the planet is in a constant state of chaos and revolution, then nothing can ever really get done, and yet so many other things can get done while we're not looking. One hand does one thing, while the other hand does something else. Now, Saturn has just gone direct in Scorpio, and one of the things that we can look at least from a collective level, is, now, let's go back in time. What were some of the big revelations of Saturn Scorpio retrograde? The biggest revelation at one point was the IRS and the IRS targeting conservative groups and the Tea Party. And what they were doing was they were really harassing them and freezing their ability to use their funds or to generate any kind of serious momentum going into the last election. It was a very, very interesting strategy, in that what you wanted to do is you wanted to take up the resources of your opponent. And for the Obama administration, the opponent were conservative groups, i.e. the Tea Party, even though the Tea Party had been completely taken over in AstroTurf. That's a whole other discussion altogether. But still, you want to be able to make sure that your opponent in an election doesn't have the ability to either fight back or mount some kind of counterinsurgence or counterattack. And by tying up these groups with any number of official, protocols or audits or whatever they were doing, they, in many ways, were hamstringing their efforts to either free money or free resources or free energy in order to combat or take on the Obama administration in the 2012 election. Very interesting strategy, and this is what happened. We learned about it after the fact with Saturn and Scorpio retrograde. Scorpio is and represents other people's money. It is, Scorpio, in many ways, is the banks. It is fiat-based lending. When you go to the second house, you go to Taurus, you're dealing with your resources, your hard assets, your gold, your silver, all those things that are yours. Second house primary. Eighth house opposite is other people. You go to the bank to get credit-based money, right? That's Scorpio. That's the 8th house. The stock market is the 8th house. Insurance companies, life and death, that's the 8th house as well. So what we have is the IRS who comes in, and they are agents of the 8th house. They go out and they get your money, the 2nd house. They come into your house and take your assets for the ability to run the government and keep the thing flowing and moving. Theoretically, right? That's what they're there to do. And what we learned during Saturn and Scorpio, Saturn being gravity, compression, structure, focus, what we learned about Saturn and Scorpio retrograde is that, well, there was something going on in the past, in the not so distant past, essentially two years ago to a year ago, where there were groups that were targeted. And they were targeted for ideological reasons. We learned about that. And we learned that there needs to be some kind of structure. There needs to be some kind of check and balance. And what we saw was that there was none. Well, did it happen at the local level in Cincinnati, or did it come here, come there? Oh, well, the head of the IRS in Cincinnati went to the White House 200 times. But, that doesn't really matter because, it's just an official visit, and you don't need to pay attention to that and look the other way, and it's all good. And, oh, by the way, gay marriage passed, so come on, just put a smile on your face and a spring in your step, and it's all fine. It's all fine and dandy. That's right. Yes, indeed. Go back to your reality TV. So that's what we learned. Now, what's going to happen with Saturn going direct? Could there be some kind of reorganization, some kind of refocusing on the IRS or any other governmental agency that has been, for lack of a better term, out of the check and balance system? The IRS, by the way, there's no checks and balances. There's none. There's none. There's nobody really overseeing the IRS and saying, you're doing a good job or you're doing a bad job. The IRS has been given ultimate power in this country. Ultimate. And when they come and knock in, who isn't freaked out? Right? Death and taxes. That's Scorpio. So we had that. And, that was a revelation. We got into Benghazi. Benghazi was a bit of a revelation with Saturn and Scorpio retrograde, and it's a mess. Benghazi's a mess, but nobody's ever been able to answer really for anything. And, of course, the person who is the head of the Department of Justice is Eric Holder, the Attorney General. That's not going to help matters much. But the real biggie, though, is the Snowden event. And that happened, again, under Saturn, Scorpio retrograde, Scorpio secrets. There are two signs, talked about it before. The two signs that are the most related to spying are, repeat after me, Gemini and Scorpio. Gemini and Scorpio. Where was Jupiter? Gemini. Where was Saturn? Scorpio. What sign is Edward Snowden? Eric Snowden, whatever you want to call him. He's a Gemini. Okay, so Gemini represents duality, represents double agents, represents two faces, represents multiple plots, plans, or narratives, right? So on one level, it looks like you're doing this thing. On another level, this thing is happening beneath it. And, oh, by the way, if you manage to get to the second level, well, guess what? There's another level beneath the second level, and that's the third level. And this is how Gemini works. And this is how the spy game works as well, by the way. There can be 3 or 4 concurrent realities or narratives or motivations at any given time. So if you say you found the truth, well, you may have found part of the truth, really, because that might have just been one layer of what's taking place. By the way, most things take place at least 4 levels. 4 levels. There's the surface level. That's one, right? There is the symbolic level. That's another level. Then there's the metaphoric level. That's another level. And then ultimately, theoretically, there would be the quote-unquote truth level. So there are 4 levels of reality at any given time. And that model can be applied also to any kind of distraction or any kind of flow of information or events that we're witnessing. But the Snowden event was pretty big, and it still is big for a number of reasons. Now, I'm not an Edward Snowden cheerleader by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not. I've become so jaded with the system and this process of the evolution of truth or the unfolding of truth that we have to be very, in some ways, cynical and clear as we can be about who's doing what. Because you can jump on something and say, this is the truth, this is what's happening, and it looks and smells and feels like it, and then all of a sudden you peel back a layer and you go, wow, I've been had, we've been had. This has been a setup, this has been a false front, a limited hang. And this is how things are playing out, because understand this, we are hungry for the truth. We are so hungry for the truth. We are starving. We are emaciated for the truth. That's what we are. And so we grab at anything that feels, tastes, resembles, the scent of the truth, the meaty scent of the truth. It's like prey, and we're stalking it, we're hunting it down, and when we get a little piece, we're ravenous for it, and it fills us up just a little bit, and we want more. But we have to be careful because people understand that, people know that. These groups and these individuals that are really trying to steer our planet into a very different reality will play on that, and they will give you and me and everybody else that's willing to, bite a poison apple, they're willing to give it to us every single time. So we need to be very clear. We need to be very cagey about what's given to us. Remember what Yeats said, and I'm paraphrasing. And in the end, the best lack all conviction, while the worst are filled with uncertainty. I mean, so it's the second coming with doubt and uncertainty. No, the worst are filled with passion and intensity, while the best lack all conviction. There you go. I'm sorry. My English teachers would be very displeased with me. Let me repeat that. This is the second coming. This is Yeats' apocryphal poem about the end of the world. And in the end, the worst are filled with passion and intensity, while the best lack all conviction. And there's something to be said for that. But if you lack all conviction to the point where you don't care, then you're just a cynic and a nihilist, and you'll just watch everything go by. So we have to have some connection to events as they unfold. Now, what we do know is that we were told, at least publicly, that the NSA and everybody else is spying on us. But people, again, on the inside, or not even on the inside, people have been following this stuff for years, know that this has been going on and powerfully since the mid-90s. The internet was really in its infancy in the mid-90s. And yet that's when the protocols were being put into place with the internet. And it all goes back to a guy by the name of Danny Casolaro. You can look him up. And Danny Casolaro was the father of the Promise software, aka also known as Echelon. And it was essentially taken from him. If you want to find out more about Danny Casolaro, read a book called The Gemstone Files by the late Jim Keith. He talks about Danny Casolaro quite a bit. Jim Keith died under very mysterious circumstances. He shared my birthday too, by the way, September 22nd. Let's hope that's not a portent or a harbinger of things to come. Knock on wood. So we have these Snowden revelations, and they took place during Saturn and Scorpio. And again, people are up in arms, they're outraged. Oh, he's a hero. Oh, he's a traitor. He's a hero. He's a traitor. He's a hero. He's a traitor. Split, split, split. Divide and conquer. Divide and conquer. Polarize. Insert the new programs. That's how it works. Insert the new programs. Let's insert this. Let's insert this. Let's insert gay marriage. Let's insert, the immigration program. Let's insert. And by the way, does anybody find it disturbing at all that George Bush is coming out and saying give immigration a chance? He's, this compassionate man. Oh, please, I just need a home. They just need a home. They're like you and I. They're like you and I. They deserve a shot because they're either with us or they're against us, and they should be with us. Does anybody find this obnoxious? I think that there are feelings for George Bush in this country that have not been resolved. And that's the problem. That's the problem with having such a top-heavy system. Think of it. Think of everything that happened during the Bush administration. 8 years. 8 years of just him doing whatever the fuck he wanted. 8 years, aided and abetted by the conservative Christian dupes who thought that he was a Christian. 8 years. War without end. Preemptive strikes. Everything that's taking place now in the Obama administration, the groundwork was laid by Bush, and Obama's taken it to a whole other level. And then he leaves. And we're supposed to think that somebody who said that they are all about hope and change, and they were going to have a transparent presidency, and everything that happened during the Bush administration was not going to happen during his administration, that was going to somehow be closure for what happened during the Bush administration. It's not. It's not. And you know what? It's 2013, soon it's going to be 2014. And we'll be at the midterms. And then there'll be talk of whoever's going to be running for the next slot in the presidency, if we even have a presidency then. Maybe Obama becomes a full-time president. Maybe that's what happens. We don't know. There's a lot of land ahead of us. But let's say it does happen, and we go on to the next person that's inserted into the White House. How do we resolve our feelings for Obama? This is a problem. We're in a weird place because we have this backlog, this psychic backlog that we're dealing with at a collective level that is so deeply unresolved, which means probably we should get away from the collective level to begin with on some level, right? I mean, if we can't understand and work with this stuff in ways that's psychically helpful or healthy, then maybe we need to leave it alone and do something else, because it's never going to get resolved, and we're always going to have these unresolved feelings of being lied to, cheated, extorted. It doesn't matter who's there, and that's not a good thing for us to be carrying around. Think of everything you carry around on a daily level. Think about it. No wonder people check out. It's overwhelming. Overwhelming. I mean, who can handle this, really? It's it's not easy. You've got issues and challenges in your personal lives, and some of them are, very intense. There are people who have family members that are sick, and they're going to doctors who are doing everything in their power to help kill them. Trust me on that. I mean, sure, there's some good doctors out there. I don't mean to completely denigrate the medical profession, but there's that going on. There are people who have wives or husbands or fathers, mothers fighting a war that is completely insane and not understandable by hardly anyone at this point in time. Who are we fighting? Al-Qaeda? Well, Al-Qaeda, they're helping us in Syria, but they're hurting us in Afghanistan. I mean, who can make sense of this? I mean, these wars are about empire. That's what they are. But nonetheless, there are people that have trauma. Yesterday, I was up at the swimming pool. There's a guy. He's trying to get into the swimming pool. Can't get in. My son jumps out of the pool, and this is just a chest high kind of door. You stick your hand over it and you turn the handle from the other side and you open it. You couldn't do it. You know why? You only had one leg. One leg. He came walking. He came in, and I watched him. Who is this guy? He had a buzz cut. He sat down over in the shade with his, probably his daughter, maybe his son-in-law, granddaughter. And I didn't really pay a lot of attention to him. I just watched him a little bit. I wondered about him. What's his story? So my stuff was over there, towels and so forth. I get up and I go over there to dry off, get my clothes, and of course they're talking. Well, I heard about 5 minutes of his story. It was all based around his leg, the one that he didn't have, the challenges with the prosthetic, being bled by the system, being not given, and I could, I could hear sort of the VA in the background, this guy getting the runaround, somebody trying to bilk the state and the VA because all of a sudden his prosthetic leg didn't work right, he had to get a new one, and it was just I could just listen to the guy smoking, and it's like, this is the carnage, this is the human carnage of war. And a very understanding daughter saying, I'll take you here, I'll take you there. And look, we live in a challenging time. And it doesn't help when we have these people who are running our country and they go away and they go away for a period of time and then they come back and then they say that we should be in favor of something like blank. Like blank. How are we supposed to respond to that guy? That guy who helped create the conditions that we're currently living in. There's a level of unmitigated rage that we're sitting on here that's explosive. Just know it, feel it, it's out there. You see it, right? Road rage, people that get angry at the checkout stand, or, it's there, man. These are challenging times. So we have Saturn in Scorpio going direct. That's focus. It's focus, ladies and gentlemen. Wherever it is in your chart, that's focus. For a lot of people with Neptune in Scorpio, this is a time, yours truly, where we have to really understand our place in the world, our spiritual place in the world, what our legacy is going to be, what our spiritual legacy is going to be, how we're going to evolve ourselves spiritually over the next 30 years of our lives, if we can hang in there that long. This is all the Neptune and Scorpio generation. And part of what happens during the Neptune-Scorpio conjunction is that we have to understand what is worth holding on to on a spiritual level and what we have to let go of. And that's an important decision that each and every one of us has to face in our own lives. Because what you hold on to theoretically needs to be that thing that is the most resonant and imminent kind of light at the end of the tunnel, or light in the center of your soul. And the things that aren't a part of that, you have to let go of. Now, the people who have Pluto in Leo, the baby boomers, Saturn is squaring your Pluto. This is a challenging time for the baby boomers. This is where they're becoming aware of their mortality. They're becoming aware of their legacy. I just saw a thing on Joni Mitchell on YouTube, which was done not too long ago. Joni Mitchell, by the way, is a Scorpio. And she was talking about her generation, Pluto and Leo, and she wouldn't call Pluto and Leo, but it was her generation. And, basically how they blew it. And while I am not in agreement in totality with Theo White that these people are the reason why we are in planetary hell, and then once they leave, everything will be fine and dandy, I don't believe that, although I will say that this is that they are a big part of the problem. They're a big challenge. And the reason why is because they were given everything in a lot of ways. And what they did with it was they gave it away, but not in ways that were empowering to the rest of us. They blew their chance. If you've ever seen the movie Easy Rider, there's a scene right before Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper gets smoked, and Peter Fonda says to him, "Hey man, do you ever get the feeling that we blew it?" That, by the way, was in I believe the movie was 1970. So 1916 or 1970, and they had really about 3 years, maybe about 4 years as a run-up to that moment in that film. And yet, Terry Southern, who wrote the film script, very talented writer, very funny guy too. Terry Southern, who wrote the film script for Easy Rider, along with Hopper and Nicholson. Nicholson was a part of it, and Fonda. It was a group effort. He knew, he had the presence of mind to look at, hey, man, maybe we screwed this whole thing up already. And to a large part, I think that they did. And I'm going to tell you right now, the number one offender was Bill Clinton, Mr. Leo himself. Bill Clinton did things to this country that we'll never recover from. Signing NAFTA was a big, big, big mistake, and helped facilitate the end of the industrial era was already winding down here, but it helped facilitate that. But then he gave China most favored nation status, and China ever since then, any opportunity or potential to engineer our manufacturing base was gone forever, gone. I was reading an article today on The Guardian, and it was talking about how Detroit is this ghost town, and they're actually thinking about like sort of ghost town tourism for Detroit, because they've got all these buildings they're empty and vacant, and nobody can take care of them, and they don't have the money. And apparently, a lot of people have had to leave dogs in Detroit. They've left Detroit and they didn't bring their dogs because they didn't have the money. So now Detroit has packs of wild dogs that roam at night. Think about that. And that's not going to change anytime soon, man. That is going to be, it's going to be crazy. So anyway, we suffered this post-industrial meltdown thanks to, in part, to William Jefferson Clinton. But there was a great bait and switch, right? It's like, okay, we're going to shut down your factories, we're going to move everything over to China, but for a few scant years, what we'll do is we'll make money really cheap, really, really cheap. And we'll give you the impression that you can get rich quick with the NASDAQ and all these internet companies. But it'll just be for just a moment in time. And then once we close that door, we've got this little housing bubble over here ready to go, since we enacted Glass-Steagall, and then we'll distract you even more for a couple of years until I get the hell out of here, and then it's Bush's problem. And that's what happened. It's exactly what happened. So Pluto and Leo have a lot to answer for. And Saturn in Scorpio, again at the early degrees, right now it's only at 5 degrees, is going to square the Pluto and Leo generation. It's going to square their natal Pluto. Now, they'll get some nice trinage happening, right, with Uranus. They're going to like that because they have Uranus in Cancer. But they're going to have to transform. They're going to have to change. The collective moment of conscience for Pluto and Leo is right here, right now. Right here, right now. And part of what Pluto and Leo has engendered is a type of cultural narcissism that's been passed on to the rest of us. We're all guilty of that, by the way. They don't have the patent on that. But that is going to come into real serious focus and clarity, because they're going to have to look themselves in the mirror and say, I am old. I'm old. What do I want to do? What do I want to do the last days of my life, the last few breaths? That's what they're going to have to answer to. It'll remain to be seen what they'll do. Now, some of these people are in very prominent positions of power. They could have significant moments of conscience. And we could see more whistleblowing. We could see more truth-telling One would hope that would be a really positive outcome with Saturn squaring their Pluto. Now, the Pluto and Scorpio people, well, they're just getting started. And this Saturn, it's hitting their Pluto. They're feeling it, man. They're feeling their power. This is a very intense, very turned on, in their own weird, dark, occulty kind of way, generation. They think as one. They move as one, all right? They are a transpersonal generation. They're not like any other generation before them. Not even close. That's why these global protest movements are so powerful, because they are keyed into each other on a psychic level that is transpersonal. Get that through your mind. They're operating at a level of group consciousness that we do not understand. They've got their own internal version of their internet, and it's inside of them. And frankly, they don't care what you think. Now, there have been other generations where they've said, oh, we don't care what you think, we're going to do our own thing. Starting with the baby boomers, obviously. But that may not have been across the board. Like my generation, Pluto and Virgo, it's very, very kind of diverse generation. You have Uranus and Leo. I was very into punk rock. I was going to do whatever I wanted to do. Screw you. I was brought up on rebellion. So I got programmed by all the films, Rebel Without a Cause. I can name you a dozen more if I wanted to take time. But I am not endemic of my generation. A lot of my generation are very conservative, extremely conservative. So I didn't care what people thought most of the time, but a lot of my generation did. And the Pluto and Libra people, I think that generation definitely cared about what people thought. About how, the rise of metrosexualism came up during Pluto and Libra, so they really wanted to look good. They cared about how people saw them, experienced them, felt them, viewed them. And even their icon, right, Kurt Cobain, Pluto and Libra icon, Kurt Cobain that would have been Pluto and Virgo. But anyway, he showed up for them during Pluto and Libra, right? Actually, Kurt Cobain showed up with Pluto and Scorpio. Because, yeah, that's right. He's a Pluto and Scorpio artist. Very different. I'm trying to think who the Pluto and Libra artist might be. I think it'd be people like George Michael and Paul Young and all those kind of really Rick Astley. Those are Pluto and Libra kind of guys. New Kids on the Block. Very Pluto and Libra. Look good, look sharp, nice haircuts, all dressed the same. So anyway, Saturn's gone forward, and hopefully we might see some resolution around some of these Pandora's boxes that have been opened while Saturn went retrograde. Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice for somebody to have some accountability in the public realm? Wouldn't it be nice for somebody to actually do some time? Like, I'm talking real time, and a person that was really responsible for something. When was the last time that happened? Bernie Madoff. That's it. That's it. Nobody in the government ever goes to jail. Louis Libby did for a very brief period of time. And who knows what he did while he was in there. He probably had a little back door. He had to be back by 8 a.m. or something. I don't know. But perhaps we're going to see some of this with Saturn and Scorpio. Because I think on some level, people are looking for resolution. They're looking for resolution for everything that's happened over the past 6 years, the past 8 years before that, the past 8 years before that. People are really, really dying for resolution so that we can literally say, this is over, this is done with, let's move on now. Let's create something better. Let's have better checks and balances. Let's move on from this. It may not happen. In fact, I doubt it's going to happen. So what you're left with, boys and girls, is you're left to do it on your own. Home grow it. That's what you got to do. You got to home grow it. Nobody else is going to do it for you. All right. I'm going to take a little bit of a break here, and when I come back, Nikita Way Shower and 954, I'm going to get to you. We're going to do some readings. Thank you for holding. Let me open up the line, 347-308-8995, 347-308-8995. That is the call-in number. You can also reach me via Skype and through Blog Talk. You can get on here and we can do a little reading action. All right, what do I want to play? Something not too long. Should I play my little lounge music? How about 2 minutes worth of lounge music? You guys want to do that? Let's just do that. 2 minutes worth of. Nah, people won't do that. Let's go with Map Reference. This is a Wire, 3 minutes and 40 seconds. My favorite song by Wire. And when I get back, we'll be doing some readings. You'll listen to Navigating the Astrological Matrix. I'm Robert Phoenix. I'm your host. Here's Wire. That was Colin Newman and Wire. The song is called Map Reference. It's very unlike anything else they did. So don't expect anything else like this song from the Wired songbook. You'll be grossly disappointed. You're listening to Navigating the Astrological Matrix, coming to you live from the heart of Texas. Shall we take a call? Hello there.
Hey, Rob,
Hello?
how are you? Hello?
Hey, good. Who's this?
This is James.
James. What's happening, brother?
Nothing much. What's going on?
Oh, it's just, another day in paradise here on planet Earth, sifting through the wreckage of the last 5,000 years. But other than that, it's all good.
You know what? Last night I was watching TV, and I saw they were advertising a show that was coming out, and it just it was like it broke the camel's back for me. I just I turned the TV off. I said forget TV. I can't. It was the show title was something like my teen daughter is pregnant and so am I, or something like that. And I said, oh shit, okay, well let me just turn the TV off. That's it. That's it. I said, we're going to hell in a handbasket now. Whatever. That's our form of entertainment now. You know what I mean? That speaks to our level of consciousness. So
I had a very similar moment, James, last night. I'm serious, with a very similar show. I check this out, man. I couldn't sleep. So I got up and I went into the living room. I turned on the TV, and I saw this show. It was called "I'm Pregnant and I'm Dating."
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this, man? I'm pregnant and I'm dating. Wow.
Yeah, that's how we entertain ourselves now. Yeah.
I think it was on the WE channel, WE. All I can say is that I am not we. Let's put it that way. So, what's going on in your life, man? How is James Jackson Ministries going?
It's going pretty good. It's going in a great direction. I'm looking to expand, and I'm looking to remarket. I'm also even creating some products. Because this online thing, it's pretty tough. You've got to be very resourceful. You got to always learn, and that's exactly what I'm doing. So I'm working on some products, working on the site, working on remarketing. I know someone told me that I was in my Saturn return, and so I called in today to see what that was all about, and how that's going to kind of play out for me, especially because I know that in my own natal chart, Saturn is retrograde, and it's also my south node. So, I'm just kind of curious as to see what's that all about and what's going on. I know that we're in Saturn and Scorpio, and I believe I know I have that Saturn and Scorpio, so just calling it perfect timing, calling in, and just find out what's that all about.
All right, let me see if I don't think I have your full chart, but let me just let me go in here and see if I have anything related to you. If not, we'll do something. There's hardly anybody online today, so we can do a full chart. Let me just see here. I think I got you here. Hold on. Yep, there you are, James.
Yes.
You're regular. All right, okay. So your Saturn is at 27 degrees Scorpio. So you essentially have 22 degrees before Saturn hits your Saturn, and that won't happen until next year, okay?
Okay.
So you will feel it, though. You will feel it because Saturn you're part of this Pluto and Scorpio generation, and Saturn is 1 degree off your Pluto. So you would definitely feel Saturn, even though your Saturn has not conjuncted you. Now, your Pluto is in a big T-square, big fat T-square opposite Mars and trining Jupiter. So what Saturn, I believe what Saturn's mission in your life at this point in time is to reconcile that T-square, to bring focus, real focus in your life. Like you've got Mars and you've got the true node up in the 9th house. You know, you're a teacher. That's what the 9th house is. People that have strong 9th house aspects are teachers. And you know, and that's where you have to go because your true node is there. So Saturn, probably when it opposes your Mars, that's when you're going to have to get very, very focused around creating materials because that's the 3rd house. You need materials. You need materials so you can bring them up into the 9th house so that you can teach. Do you have a like a slide projector that you can plug into your computer so you can shoot it onto a wall? Do you have one of those?
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's a very good start. Do you have connection to really good third-party client software so you can do webinars online?
Oh, yeah. I got a good firm at that. Yes.
Okay, so this is all stuff that you just keep building. You know, keep building your tools. You know, booklets, pamphlets, whatever you can, in order to supplement your approach to the 9th house. This is the time to do it. You know, especially with Saturn on your Pluto right now, off by 1 degree, you would feel a sense of urgency as it relates to this, right? And one of the things that, and I'm just picking this up psychically now. This is not anything that I necessarily see in your chart, but one of the things I think you're going to see is you're going to see somebody that you either know that is doing something very similar to what you're doing, or you're going to find somebody that's kind of like you, and you're going to see what they're doing, and they're going to have a level of quote-unquote success, whatever that is, reaching people, getting eyeballs, being supported for your work. This is what we're all trying to do theoretically in this sort of space that we're in. But you're going to see somebody that's going to spur your creative juices, let's put it that way, or your competitive juices. You're going to see somebody, I can do that, I need to do that, I know that guy, or I know what that person's doing, theoretically that could or should be me, okay? Because Saturn is going to square your Jupiter and Aquarius in the 6th house. The 6th house is purpose, it's service, it's your dharma, it's what you're here to do, and Jupiter expands into Aquarius. You're here to bring a new type of vision, a new type of expansion to people's lives, and that's part of that T-square. So the T-squares are not bad. The T-square says, hey, focus on this. This is what you have to do. You come back to it again and again and again. Think of the actual T-square as like a tool, a very sharp tool that just, continues to hack away and to define, kind of what you do in terms of the sculpture of your own life and purpose. So Saturn is playing a role right now, and you've got until you hit the end of next year when Saturn conjunction on Saturn opposes your midheaven. That's theoretically the time where you should be ready for liftoff. So you've got from now until the end of next year. So get everything in alignment, craft your tools, refine your message. Make sure you've got all your materials. Be congruent. Don't be afraid. Also, on some level, to be competitive. It's a weird thing. In our society, we're taught, oh, don't be competitive. Just do what you do what you love. Don't worry about anybody else. Well, I think that there is a lot of truth to that. Because you can't really worry about anybody else. But at the same time, we're not living in a vacuum. We're not living in a void. We see people that are doing things that we theoretically could be doing and maybe doing them a little bit better, a little more popular, maybe getting a little more recognition, maybe they have a little more money, and all of a sudden, boom, we go, wow, I can do that. I gotta get on the stick, man. And that's okay too. So don't be afraid of that, You're in Aries and you've got 3 planets in Aries and they're all conjunct, they're all in the 8th house. So you getting to your own Aries material can sometimes be a little challenging. Uranus is on your sun right now. It's right there. It's hitting your sun, and it's going to be on your sun through next year, and it's going to move over and begin to move to your Mercury. Man, when it begins to contact your Mercury, we're talking really interesting insights and really interesting connections, and flashes of inspiration. So you are the other thing too. What's really interesting is that once Saturn crosses the IC or the Imum it now begins the ascent back up to the top of the charts. And it's slow, but now you are incrementally moving upwards towards the midheaven experience again. You've gone through the first three houses, and you're down at the nadir, but it's kind of like, think of the IC, and this will not necessarily make sense in terms of like the precession of the seasons or the equinoxes to a certain extent, but think of the IC as being like the winter solstice. And then once you get the first day after the winter solstice, there's just slightly a little more incremental light that comes into the world. And the next day there's just a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, right? So once Saturn crosses the IC, there's a little bit more movement towards the zenith of the chart or the midheaven, and a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. So it's a major crossing, and your Saturn is right on your IC. It's right there, kind of at the bottom, the nadir of the chart. So it's going to be a very interesting Saturn return for you, because then what happens, James, is that everything now is moving towards the ultimate progression when you peak with Saturn being in Gemini in the 10th house, and that's let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's 6 and so that's 9, 10 years. That's 10 years. No, I take that back. That's 12, 14, 15. That's 15 years of you building your career. That's what this Saturn swing is. So you're going up, 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 my friend.
Thank you.
That makes sense.
I like that.
Yeah, and don't forget, you've got Mars in Taurus, and you've got at 11 degrees, and your true node is at 18. But Mars at Taurus at 11 degrees, Pluto has been trining your Mars off and on, and next year it goes back into a much tighter trine. And the Pluto-Mars trine is very, very powerful, very powerful. And what I mean by that is that it gives you a real sense of endurance, a sense of energy, and we're dealing with two different modalities, because Pluto in Capricorn is cardinal, Mars in Taurus is fixed. So you have the cardinal fixed combination, which is great for initiating and finishing. So you're going to have a lot of juice in 2014. But hey, you're when are you born? 85? Born in 85? Yeah, 85. So let's see, what is that? So 70. So you're a snake, right?
Ox.
Oh, an ox. Okay, my bad. Yeah, okay, ox. So ox are the amazing thing about oxes. They have great endurance. They do not quit. They may not come in first, immediately, but they will finish the day, and they will wear their competition down. And the ox is related to what is it, Capricorn. So it's a very Capricornian energy, and this should be a good year for you. Snake and ox they're actually compatible. So, but 2014 is going to be very interesting, and what's the word I'm looking for? There's some closure for you in 2014, big time closure when that Saturn crosses over and then moves away and starts to come up into your fourth house. And so there's closure, there's new beginning, and a real sense that you're doing the right thing and that everything is kind of rising to the occasion. So you're on the path, man.
I love it. Thank you so much. I like that. Thank you.
All right, James. Don't be a stranger.
I won't. Thank you, man.
All right. See you later.
All right.
Bye-bye. All right. That's our buddy James. He's on Blog Talk Radio too, by the way. Very nice young man. And he started to, I think, kind of do this work just as I started to do this show, or maybe a little bit after that. He's a good dude. Very positive. He wants some positive vibrations, uplifting messages. Go find James in his show. He has psychics on his show. Nikita Wayshower, show us the way.
Hello, and how are you?
Oh, I'm great. I'm peachy.
Lovely. I thought I would just give a quick ring in to see how things are unfolding, because I had a reading with you last month.
Yes.
And everything's panned out the way that you said, but in a much more dramatic way. It is.
Is that a good way? Is that a good thing?
Well, yes, it is in one aspect. It is, yes. Tapping more into my energy and much more protection. So, yes, because you put me on guard. So, yes.
Good. Well, that's good. I'm glad I was able to be of assistance and helpful. It would suck if you said you were totally wrong. And,
no.
No. You're complete and utter fraud, and you shouldn't be on the radio. So I appreciate you giving me positive feedback.
Yeah, no, not at all.
That's good. So what else is happening in your life? Tell us something positive. Give us a positive experience that you've had that you would like to share with us.
Positive experience. Okay. I've evolved on a spiritual level, and it's manifested into a physical level, to a high level, where I was under a form of like attack.
Mm-hmm.
I knew straight away, and I knew how to deal with it, and it was only because someone was trying to stop me doing my work.
Can you be any more explicit about that, or can you at least? Yeah.
Okay. I do have my own radio show. Okay. What's coming to light at the moment is that we're being made to discipline. We are with our guides, full stop. And as you know, in every field of work, you get positive and you have negative.
Yep.
And what's coming to light is if you're not walking the talk, you're being revealed.
Yep.
You are. And this is what happened. A client of mine, and she was doing absolutely tremendous, she was. And she suddenly got involved with someone, and they zapped her energy and did all whatever. And it really sort of like brought her from a higher level to a lower level because her energies were zapped. So I took the person on.
You took the person on?
Yes, yeah.
Was that on an energetic level?
No, basically I contacted them and asked them to come on the show to explain their actions. Because when you're working from the divine light, it's meant to be pure light, it is. So I invited them to come on the show and they just explained their actions, and they wouldn't. And then they tried to do whatever in a underhanded way, but it didn't work.
So you called them out, and all of a sudden you cast a light on them, and they decided to run back into the shadows, is what you're saying?
Yes, yeah.
It reminds me of that saying by William Blake, which is, "Speak your mind, and a base man shall avoid you." I think that's one of the greatest sayings of all time.
Yeah.
Well, good for you. So you were able to step up and deal with somebody that was getting into probably character assassination and a lot of other stuff, and that's good. That's good. When you do that, let me ask you a question. Because I know that it was at the Starship Enterprise. Were they contacting you there?
Sorry, it's all right. It's okay. Come.
That's okay. So I know that for me, when I get into situations, maybe not exactly like the one you're talking about, but where I have to extend myself in a way, I kind of check my own self and say, where am I in all this? Where do I stand? Am I being congruent? Am I being authentic? You know?
Well, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the whole situation, I did do that. I did. And when it all begun, because the person was doing so well, they was, and in all fairness, it's like their light got dimmed.
Right.
It did. And with due respect, we all have to go through experiences. We do. But it brought this person down to a level that was not good. And, you know, I'm a person that I know what I'm here to do, and that's not ego-based. I just do my work full stop. And I'm a healer, I am. And if something is not right, I will stand up and I will speak the truth.
Let me ask you a question. What if you had a client that came to you and told you that they wanted to commit suicide, and they were very clear on the fact that this was what they were going to do? And I'm not talking about somebody who just shows up out of the blue. This is somebody that maybe you've worked with, you have kind of a personal history with, and all of a sudden they say, this is what I'm going to do. And they're very matter of fact about it. How would you respond to that?
I would basically check their energy fields. I would, because that could be an attachment with them. And I would know how to work with them. I would.
Would you?
First port of call is if somebody's coming from that angle, a majority of the time, is because there is an attachment with them.
I would agree with you. And at some point, at what point do you just step out of the way and say, well, even if you may have an attachment, theoretically you have free will, so I'm going to get out of the way and you can do whatever you need to do, and I'm not karmically linked to you or energetically linked to you. I'm really disconnecting myself from that. This is your choice. Would you ever go that far?
No, I mean, once I've checked them, there's an attachment there or an implant, and then obviously I'm meant to do work with them, because I always check with my guides. I do. I've never really come across anybody, to be totally fair here. I've come across people with attachments and implants, but for actual suicide, no, that's not. I've not had that experience. I haven't. And to be totally fair here, once there's an attachment or an implant, that it's like they come back into their own energy. Once the healing work is done, they do come back into their own energy. Because, you know, in all fairness here, their free will has been took.
Right. Do you think that there is some kind of permission or agreement that took place in order for that to happen?
I'm going to actually say no. Not in all cases, no. It depends where the implants or the attachments are coming from. Because remember, there's different species there is. And at the end of the day, if a species or comes onto your pathway and takes your free will away, then you basically, with due respect, you have to get in contact with the karmic board, because their free will has been took.
Where did you learn how to disconnect entities or attachments from people? I'm just curious.
My guides.
Because that's not an everyday kind of, gift that people uncover, and it's actually it's a very intense kind of type of healing to get into those places, because some of the characters that you meet up with, I'm sure, are quite dark and quite nasty.
Yeah.
How do you stay clear with all that?
I do my meditations. I basically work a lot with the sea energy. I do. I sage. I use what I need to use to make sure the grids are cleared. I do, and I've been taught everything by my guides from the highest levels.
Well, good. If people wanted to find out more about your radio show or you, where would they do that?
Juggling Butterfly. It's on at 9:30 every Wednesday evening.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 9:30 Wednesday evening here
in UK time.
UK time.
Sorry, UK
So
time.
okay, so that's quite. It's almost quite early in the morning here in the States. So you're
a lot of people tend to listen in the archives.
in the archives,
They do.
right. Of course, that makes complete sense. Do you have a website that people can go to find out more about you, or is it just a radio show?
Yeah, no, it's www.lightworkernakota77737.com.
Okay, there you go. Nakota, Lightworker Nakota 777.com.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, this has been nice to find out more about you, right?
I'm just here humbly walking my pathway.
Did you expect this kind of exchange today?
Sorry?
Did you expect this kind of exchange today when you called in?
Nothing, with due respect, nothing surprises me with our spirit guides. Nothing surprises me.
Uh-huh.
I intentionally just rung up because of what just happened, and I just wanted a little bit of confirmation. And for you to ask me, to me, it's like, just a blessing.
Well, I appreciate you calling in and giving me some confirmation. And that's always a nice thing to be able to have happen and to realize that I'm doing something correct in my life. Well, good.
Well, you're marvellous. You're absolutely marvellous. You are, because in actual fact, when I looked on there and I saw you on there, and I thought, yep, I'm coming on there. And I actually would love you to come on my show when you've got a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. You can, send me an email.
Yeah.
You could do it through Blog Talk, obviously, or Robert Phoenix at robertphoenix.com. Very easy. Send me an email. I'd love to come on your show, okay?
Yeah.
All right.
I will do that.
Well, thank you for chiming in, and just keep doing that good work, okay?
Oh, bless you.
Okay. Take care, Nakota.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Nakota Wayshow. So if you want to check her out, Lightworker Nakota 777.com. And that's NIKOTA 777.com. Let's take this trip out to Sonoma County. I wonder if it's our friends out there who called a couple of weeks ago. Is it Jose? Let's find out. Let's see. Hello there.
Hello?
Yeah, hi.
Hi. I don't think I'm your friend in Sonoma County, but I'm your friend on the radio.
Okay. What's your name?
Kathleen?
Hey, Kathleen. So are you're calling from Napa?
Lake County.
Marin
Lake County.
Lake County.
Yes.
Right. So that's where all the homes are mysteriously sinking into the earth, right?
Oh, on the one hill, yes, that is happening.
Yeah. And it's also where Harbin Hot Springs is. Do you hang out at Harbin?
I don't. I keep thinking I'm going to go over there, but I've not made it.
I actually was more of a Wilbur Hot Springs person than a Harbin Hot Springs person.
Where's Wilbur?
If you go all the way through Lake County, and then I forget what that is. It the 20? I'm not sure, but you go
yes.
south, and then it takes you kind of out of Lake County, and then it takes you eventually takes you to that freeway, which is I think it's the is it the 1 or the 5? 505. I think it's the 5 or the 505. Then
101.
Then you're on the straight shot to like Red Bluff in that area. So it's kind of in the southeastern part of Lake County. It's really worth going to.
Huh. Okay, I'll write that down.
Wilbur.
I think I've heard. Yeah, I think I've heard that too. Off the 20.
The thing I like about Wilbur is that they're off the grid there, meaning that there's no Wi-Fi. You can't get any Wi-Fi. There's no cell phone coverage. So if you really want to just drop out and feel still feel the vibrations of nature, that's a place you can do it. And they have great water, really great water.
Okay.
All right. So what would you like to explore today?
Well, I would just like to see what's coming up for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when the road's going to kind of level out.
Okay. Let's go into the software here, and all right. It's Linda, correct?
Kathleen.
I'm sorry, Kat. My bad. I don't know why I got Linda.
That's all right.
On my brain. Kathleen. Okay. All right. Give me your birthday.
5/8/1948.
5/8/1948. 5/8. Okay. All right. And what time were you born?
Around 12:58 p.m. in Iowa.
Okay, hold on. 12:50. Okay, let's go here. And which part of Iowa?
Council Bluffs, Iowa.
Let's see if we can find it.
It's close to Omaha.
Omaha, Nebraska?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, just put that in. Okay, and click the button, and there you are. I have you as obviously a Taurus sun with moon, so it's conjunct your sun, and a Virgo rising. Does that sound right to you?
That sounds exactly right.
All right. So what would you like to get into?
Just looking for financial relief in the coming year. Things are getting better, but it's always a struggle.
Well, one of the challenges with your natal chart is that you have Neptune in the second house. And the second house has to do with, as I talked about at the beginning of the show, resources, right? And it's all hard assets, hard resources, money, gold, silver, gems. But it also relates all the way back to stuff like early childhood training, potty training. It's all very fundamental, basic value, root chakra oriented material. And when a person has Neptune in the second house, we look at Neptune. Neptune is vague. It is vaporous. It is hard to get a handle on certain aspects of wherever it's showing up in the chart. So when we see Neptune in the second house in the natal chart, we find an individual that has a very fluid relationship with materials, resources, and values. And it can be difficult to understand and see what value and what resource is in the individual's life. Things come, they go. They come, they go. And it never feels like you have kind of solid ground to stand on with Neptune in the second house. So if you say, oh, great, well, is that, how am I going to resolve that in this lifetime? The key with Neptune in the second house is twofold. Number one, stay away from get-rich-quick schemes. They won't work. Number two, make sure that you have people in your life that you can trust, because you have Neptune in Libra in the second house. You can have relationships that can drain your resources like nobody's business. So, especially since you have Pisces on the seventh house. So that's another aspect. Make sure that whoever it is that you get in bed with, both literally and figuratively, that you know who they are, that you can trust them. The third piece around Neptune in the second house is to be able to trust, because Neptune is also about faith. It's a weird planet to have in the second house. If you have faith that the cup that was once full and is now empty will be full again, then you have a better chance of understanding the power of Neptune in the second house. It's weird, but you have to kind of let go and surrender, but not to the point where you're taken advantage of. That's a tricky dynamic there. Now, Pluto is at 9 degrees. Uranus is at 10 degrees. You got a T-square happening with that Neptune. Uranus is now in your 8th house. Pluto is in your 5th house. This is not bad because both those houses, the 5th house is a fire house. Scorpio is the 8th house, but you have Aries in that 8th house. So it's fire by placement with the 5th house and fire by designation, which is the 8th house with Aries. So that means that you have some energy, you have some passion, you have some juice in order to kind of change your life and transform your situation. Now, the thing with Uranus opposing Neptune is that you could lose everything very quickly, but you could also gain everything back really quickly. So you could have a great amount of misfortune and fortune at the same time. But Pluto in the 5th house is really kind of more about, it's about building, and it's about using your creativity and your creative energy to get something going, to find something that you love that you would like to dedicate the rest of your life to, because that's kind of where you are right now. So I think the focus should be in some ways less on your finances, which apparently are getting better, and more about what you want to do with the rest of your life. And even though you're born in 1948, you think that, you don't have a lot. I mean, it's like you're, part of the, I would say, latter first wave of the baby boomers. You've got a lot of life ahead of you still. You're a rat. Rats are resourceful. Rats are more youthful in some ways than other signs. You've got a very strong stellium of the true node, the moon, and the sun, all up in the 9th house in Taurus. So you're strong. You have a really good connection between your emotions and how you can express them. And with Pluto in Capricorn, Pluto in Capricorn is going to trine your true node, it's going to trine your moon, and it's going to trine your sun all over the course of the next 3 years, which means for you a tremendous uplift in terms of your energy, your intention, what you're here to do. I mean, you've got, James called in earlier, and he had a very strong 9th house aspects, and so do you. The 9th house is about teaching. It's about sharing information. It's about finding the authentic expression of self, which is Sagittarius, and being honest with yourself. The 9th house also has to do with publishing, universities, philosophy, law, religion, and nature. So Pluto in your 5th house is about reigniting passion, reigniting purpose in any of those areas in your life that you have any kind of connection with. You're far from over. You're far from done. And in fact, you will have a personal renaissance as Pluto moves closer and closer to your true node in 2014. So the question is not what you can do about your finances or resources, but what you want to do with who you are, your purpose, your time, and your energy, because you're a long way from being toast on this planet. That's where the focus needs to be. Find the passion, find the commitment, find what you want to dedicate the next 12 years of your life to, and everything will sort itself out. I know it sounds simplistic, but this is the energy and the power around your chart right now.
Okay. Yeah. So trust finances, because they always work out anyway.
That's right.
Go with the passion.
Yes.
And I'm having trouble with that because I just lost my son 3 months ago. So I maybe that's why 2014. I'm not sure what my passion is right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I'm so sorry.
It's not okay, but it just works that way. So I'm struggling with that. But with that, there's a lot of peace. There's a lot of comfort. It's a mixed up emotion.
That, I don't want to bring this back didactically to your chart because your sun is way more than your chart. But that the Uranus-Neptune opposition fits into that. It's like losing everything, right? I mean, that's kind of what that opposition is. You can lose everything and then you gain. I'm sorry to hear that, but Uranus in the 8th house opposing Neptune, and it would have opposed your Neptune exactly at that time. And
right. And getting everything back is just having the privilege of having my little grandson here, visiting and reconnecting through that.
Can I ask how old your son was?
He was 36.
36. Well, I'm sorry for your loss. I know that's got to be very extremely difficult, and I'm actually touched that you would call the show and we'd have an opportunity to talk about this, and you'd be okay to at least bring it up. And I hope that you can spend time with that little grandson and find some healing that comes along with that. How old is the grandson?
He's 7. He just turned 7.
How is he doing?
How what?
How is he doing?
He's doing really well. I mean, he's very happy here. He's very close to my husband,
Okay.
so it's like a second home to him. He's always spent a lot of time here. It's a fun place. And in some ways, I just feel like my son is probably guiding him and strengthening him from a far better place than he could have here on Earth. I mean, that's my comfort.
Yeah.
Sometimes people just I don't know why, I think it was set up that way. So
It's challenging, and I have a son of my own, and it's one of the most difficult things that any parent can go through would be the loss of a child, and my heart goes out to you. And it sounds like you're doing a wonderful job, and that's another thing too about Pluto in the 5th house is that's about children and parenting, and so you might be doing even a little bit more of that as a result of this. And of course, Capricorn represents endurance and grace through aging, and so I hope that whatever comes out of this for you, Kathleen, that you can use the energy and the power to continue to build your own life and create structures for your grandson. When my father passed away in 2009, one of the things that I felt was a tremendous release of energy from him as a result. And I would not be surprised if also your son's passing will gift you and your husband also with tremendous sense of energy so that you can use some of that for his grandson and for the structuring of your own life. And this is, I think, not uncommon for people. And, when that wave comes or is hit, you can bless it and embrace it and integrate it, and you can use that to continue to grow. So that may be something that might be needed for you as well.
Thank you. It is.
All right. Well, listen, you call in any time, okay?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day.
Okay. Thank you, Kathleen. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Boy, I tell you, we get so wound up. It's kind of like what I was talking about at the beginning of the show, It's like people go through these challenging times. These challenging times on a personal level, and that's exactly kind of what I was getting into. Okay, let's take another call and see where we go from here. Hello there.
Yes, hello?
Hi, you're on the air.
Hi, my name is Alcina.
I'm sorry, what is that?
Alcina.
Alcina?
Alcina, Alphina.
Alfina. Wow, that's an interesting name. Does that have a family history or some kind of
no. No.
All right. Interesting. Okay, Alfina, where are you calling from?
Arizona.
Okay. Is this the first time you've called into the show?
No, I think I've called before, but like our connection was like really kind of bad.
Okay. Well, we got a good connection today. So I'm assuming you want to get in and do some chart work.
I was wondering, could you actually do like a quick like compatibility report, or like I don't know, like.
Well, I'll tell you what I can do. You give me your birth date. I will look up the other person's, some of their aspects, but I won't do a full compatibility report on the air. But go ahead, give me your birth date.
Or could I ask, like, if he and I will get married? Like, is that something you can see through the stuff, or like no?
Tell you what, give me your birth date, and I'll look at his aspects, and we'll see how much emotional resonance there is between the two of you. Okay.
Okay. My birthday is December 8, 1987.
December 8, 1987. Hold on. Okay, and what time?
9:04 a.m.
9:04 a.m. 4 a.m. And where was that?
Tuba City, Arizona.
Tuba City?
Yeah. Tuba and then city, and it's in Arizona.
Tuba City. Interesting. Okay. All right. There you are. Got a stacked 12th house. You have Cancer on the 7th house cusp. Jupiter is now moving into your 7th house. It's going to be conjuncting your moon in Cancer. This is a very propitious time for relationships and a long-term connection, potentially even marriage, believe it or not. When is his birthday?
His birthday is April 16th, 1977.
April 16th, 1977. Okay. April 16th, 1977. Okay. And there you are. There he is. He's got Moon in Aries, Sun in Aries, Mercury in Aries, Venus in Aries. He's got a lot of Aries. I hope you're flexible. Mars in Pisces, Jupiter in Gemini. So let's look at that against your chart. So let's see what we have here. So his sun is at 25 degrees Aries, and it is in an exact square with your moon. You have a sun-moon square. You also have looks like wouldn't be a moon-moon square, but a sun-moon square. Sun-moon squares are not the best aspects for relating. People who have sun-moon squares as part of a couple can get into fights. And
we've actually been together for like a very long time.
You have been. You guys get along well? Is that a good thing? I mean,
when people like ask me about him, he's kind of like a mirror of myself. Like, but the thing there is like I'm usually the one that says sorry. Like I'm the one that sort of I guess in a way surrenders.
By the way, Aries never say they're sorry.
Yeah, so like usually I'm the one that says I'm sorry, even though I know it's not, my fault. But yeah.
Well, okay, so you've been together for a while and you want to get married. That's it, right?
We've been together 7 years, on again, off again, but usually, like right now we're back together.
Okay, well, if there was going to be a time for you to have this stick and actually, have a long-term relationship with, the sacred bond of marriage as the centerpiece of your connection, This would be the time, because with Jupiter in the 7th house, and especially in the spring of next year, there wouldn't be a better time for marriage, to be honest with you. I mean, this is it. If you don't get married, if you do not get married by June or July of next year, then I would hang this marriage up. I'm serious. I mean, marriage, the relationship up, because it doesn't line up for you any better than this.
Okay, so what you're saying is, like, I guess the thing, I understand, like, I've already wanted marriage and kids with him. I've said that to him, like, about a year ago, and at that time, he wasn't there because, you know, like, I understand where he's coming from. Like, there's a lot of things that we need to fix, like, within our lives. Like, there's certain things we still need to get done. So for that reason, I know I'm not going to pressure him into, like, marrying me, like, right away.
I'm telling you, I'm giving you a window. You got till June or July next year. If you want this relationship to manifest in a marriage, that's the time. It doesn't get any better for you. Jupiter will conjunct your moon, right? You should theoretically, I mean, if you want kids, I don't know if you want kids or not, but if you want kids, Jupiter conjuncting your moon, Jupiter moving through your 7th house, it doesn't get much better than that. It's a big window for you.
I mean, what about him? Like, is he going to be in that state of mind during that time, or like?
No, I mean, you know, he's an Aries. So, by the way, all his Aries planets show up in your 3rd house, and it's nice because you've got Jupiter in Aries, you know, and you know he let's see, 10, 13. So his Venus is on your Jupiter. That's really expansive. It can be very passionate. But by and large, I'm not a big fan of long-term relationships when somebody else's personal planets show up, like in the 3rd house, because that's a brother and sister house. There's a lot of affinity, but it doesn't always translate into partnership and relationship, especially marriage. You've got some resonance because you've got all this, like, Sagittarius stuff, right? You've got your Sun in Sagittarius at 18 degrees, and he's got his Venus at 13 degrees, or 10 degrees. So you've got a nice Sun-Venus trine. So there's passion, there can be flow, but again, you know, his planets show up in your 3rd house. He does have Jupiter in your 5th house, which is nice, and that's romance. That's not a bad thing. But it's Jupiter in Gemini, so you're getting 2 separate realities, right? You're getting two separate narratives. I mean, I know you don't want to pressure him, and maybe the stars will align in such a way where, you know, between now and Christmas, you know, he gets worn down and says, "This is it. I'm ready. I'm here for you. You know, I want to be with you. Then let's do this." The only challenge I see.
I think that's the thing. That's the thing that he says. Like, because most of the time we argue about whether or not he's committed, and he always tells me, like, if I wasn't committed, why would you be, you know, living in my house and staying with me?
You do. So, that's the square. So you do argue. Look, he has Uranus also on his Venus right now. Very hard to pin somebody down when Uranus is on their Venus. Trust me, very hard. You're not going to get any resolution around this for yourself personally until December, January, and even January of next year, because that's when Uranus finally moves off his Venus. That's a very erratic aspect, okay? But then it moves onto his Mercury, which can be a completely different trip, and he could change his mind in a heartbeat with. I'm sorry, no, it's not on his Mercury. It's that's Taurus. My bad. But Uranus on Venus is definitely tricky when it comes to kind of nailing down a relationship. You won't see any resolution around this until it moves off of there, and that's January of next year. December, January of next year. And I, you know, I don't know, if you've been together off and on for 7 years and you want marriage, and I understand you guys are pretty young, or at least you are. You're younger than he is. I don't know. I want to be encouraging. I do. But you also.
But I think that's the thing. Like, people have already told me. Like, they've already told me that he's the person I'm supposed to be with. Like, we're supposed to. Like, we had a past life together, and I think that's very true because when I first met him, everything just kind of like fell into place. Like, I don't have, when I'm with him, I don't need anything else. Like, I know we make sense. Like, we're just two. In a way, we're kind of like the same in a lot of ways, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why we, like, oftentimes, like, we fight, but not like, we don't fight about, like, over stupid things, like, like they're, yeah, so along the way, we just sort of understand each other.
So what do you want from me in this moment?
I guess what I was thinking, like, what I wanted was to know if there was, a possibility that, yeah, he will marry me.
You have a window until June or July, and if you're not married by then with this person, then I would move on. Because.
But like the thing, like I told you, I'm not gonna force him. I'm not gonna say, oh well, you have to marry me by June or July of next year. Like that's kind of
Then you just
like
have to
forcing someone.
You just have to love him and surrender and let it go, and then not doubt the process, and not call radio shows to see if you're going to be together. Just have faith in it, trust it, love him, and then hope for the best, and that's it. What more can you do?
Yeah. And besides, like, what's meant to be will always work out, right? Like, regardless of what people say.
I just think at some point you're just going to have to make a stand with this and say, you know what, I'm just going to believe him, I'm going to trust him, I'm going to love him, or after 7 years and him not being committed, then I'm going to leave and do something else. And you're not ready to do that, obviously. So just be with him. Just be with him and trust.
I think, like, I know he's committed to me. Like, the thing there was I wanted marriage, like a ring and stuff. But it's, like, kind of hard because I know he is in areas. And it's like, yeah.
What was that?
Like, I know he's committed. Like, he's never cheated on me.
Okay, well, that's not necessarily the issue here. The issue is he going to meet you in a place where you want to be met? And obviously you want to be met in marriage, you want to start a family, you want to have kids, and you want all that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. There's nothing inherently wrong with that at all. And I guess what I'm saying to you is that if that's important to you and you don't want to push him, then you simply have to accept the fact that you're together. And you will love him, and you'll be committed to him, and then you'll have faith that by not pushing him and by loving him, that he will ultimately come around and see what you want and need and say, this is it, I'm ready. Your love, your commitment, your devotion has worn down every single ridge that I have in my life. I can't resist it anymore. I must surrender to you, and we will have a marriage and a life together. And I think that's where you kind of are headed and are probably looking for and hoping that the power of love will transform any kind of resistance that he has. And if that's the case, then you just commit to that. And you commit to it steadfastly. You have Mars and Scorpio, you're fixed. Commit to it steadfastly, and then don't look back. And then what happens is that if it doesn't turn out, if it doesn't work out the way that you want it to, then you can't blame yourself for lack of commitment. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I don't think I would blame myself, and I think, yeah, like, eventually it will work. I'm not going to walk away from this. Like, not that easily, no.
Yeah, no. So then just bring it home. Love him, accept him, commit to him, and hope that, by, the first of the year when Uranus moves off of his Venus, he says, yeah, baby, let's go do this. Let's plan our wedding. Let's get married while Jupiter's in your 7th house and is going to conjunct your moon, and let's bring this on home. That's it.
Okay.
And stop calling radio shows and asking for confirmation. That will kill your relationship. Once or twice is
no,
okay.
I've actually had other questions about, like, other people, because, like, up until recently, I was dating other people, too. I think that's the person I've asked you about before on the other show, but we kind of had, like, a really bad connection. Like, I couldn't really hear you. It was static and stuff.
Right. Yeah, okay. Well, if you're into him and you love him, plant that commitment flag right in his heart chakra and see where it takes you.
But what does that mean?
Well, it means if you really want to stand by him and be with him, then just do it. Then commit to it. And because you're not gonna you say you don't want to force him to marry you, and that's fine. I understand that. But at the same time, you've got a window. You've got a window that's open to you. And if this is the person that is going to be there during your window, then you have no other choice. But if you don't think that he's the right person, I like I said, I've given you my feedback. I'm not a huge fan of, his personal planet showing up in your third house. It's a house of brothers and sisters. You could have affinity with that person. There's nothing wrong with having affinity. But, this is just an astrological aside. I do not think that planet, like when you deal with synastry charts, that when somebody else's planets show up in your 11th house or your third house, they are not the strongest planets for a relationship. The 11th house is friends. The third house is brothers and sisters. You can have connections and affinity with those people, but they don't always translate into either emotional content or transformation or commitment, which are other houses. So I'm also sharing that with you. That the energy around this is a third house relationship. You learn from each other. There is affinity, but I would feel much better if his planets were in your 5th house, Gemini, or your 7th house, Cancer, or even your 8th house, Leo. So anyway, that's where I stand. Stay, if you're into it and you want to be with him, love him, commit to it, see where it goes. But I'm telling you, he will not be available to make any kind of commitment until after January, because that's when Uranus moves off of his Venus.
We already are back together, so I'm not worried about his commitment. I'm just, yeah.
No, when I say commitment, the type of commitment that you want, which is marriage, right? You want, that's what I'm hearing. Am I right?
Yeah, I want his last name. That's what I want.
That's not going to happen until Uranus moves off of his Venus. That's going to be in January. Uranus on Venus is very unstable. Keep that in mind. It's okay. Uranus is an unstable energy. It's in Aries. He's got Venus in Aries. You put those two together, and they're very close right now. It doesn't really, and it's in your 3rd house, which is interesting. You've got Uranus also transiting your 3rd house, getting close to your Jupiter. So anyway, listen, thank you for calling in. I wish you all the best. And, love, commit, and wait until January. See how it goes. Okay?
Okay.
All right. And with that, we have reached the end of the show. That was a strange call. I don't know. I'm not sure what you wanted out of that. Anyway. All right. Well, thank you for everybody for listening in and calling in and sharing your life story and whatever it is that you're going through. And hopefully I was able to be of assistance. I'll be back on Friday, and hopefully I will have a guest as well. I'm not sure who it will be, but I'm working on them. In the meantime, use your head and discern what's real, your heart said what's possible. RobertPhoenix.com is where you can find me. And if you want a reading, you can reach me there as well. I do this for a living. So reach out for a reading. All right, I'll see you guys on Friday. Take care. Have a great Wednesday. Ciao.
We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.